All right, time for us to check in with Tom Mulcair back in the saddle today. And our feature, of course, brought to you by Guaranteed Industries, reminding you air conditioning, heating, it doesn't matter which one. It's going to be getting cold pretty soon anyway. Just remember, your system needs to be 100% in order to keep you nice and cool or nice and warm. So give them a call. They've been in business for more than 75 years. That's Guaranteed Industries, a Lennox Premier dealer, 514-342-3400. And we say good afternoon to Tom Mulcair. Tom, how you doing?
Fine. Great to be with you guys.
Yeah, so I want to start by talking about, we had a little laugh earlier on this afternoon. We happened to look up at the monitor. So in Quebec City, where the Conservatives are getting together, there's the big logo that says Common Sense Conservative. And in the background, two people on a trapeze, I guess, setting up for a show of some kind. It was quite the picture, but
it was optics.
That's what the beauty is of people who are really good press photographers will catch that sort of thing, and it'll go across the country.
I want to ask about this, I guess it's fair to say, an attack. Pierre Poilievre going after François Legault directly over the failed tramway project there. What's this about?
It was the oddest thing. It was one of those set-piece press conferences, the iconic view from the Terrasse du Frein in Quebec City. You've got the Chateau Frontenac in the background. Glorious hot day. What could be easier, right? I think the heat got to poor old Pierre Poilievre's brain because out of nowhere, it was an easy thing, looks like the costs have gone up on this big tramway project in Quebec City. Yeah, there's been a pandemic and there's a shortage of workers and there's been considerable inflation. So his answer could have been, if he wanted to play it straight, he could have said, well, no, we're in for this much and we wouldn't change it. But instead of doing that, he decides to swing for the fences. And he goes like this, well, I will never give more, and it's because of incompetent politicians who don't know how to plan and do anything. Oopsie. So people didn't just see the part where he was obviously fighting with Legault, because Legault has backed the project, and Legault came back out today and said he was still in favor of the project, and yes, the feds would have to put in a little bit more. But he decided to go after Quebec City Mayor Bruno Marchand. If you know anything about Quebec Clannish, first of all, people are very clannish, and they'll just circle the wagons and start defending their mayor. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, what went through his head? Pierre Poilievre has been going through a transformation since the summer. Okay, let's get rid of the glasses. Let's ditch the tie. Not quite put in quite as much Brill cream. Change the tone of his voice. Let him bring it down an octave and stop screaming quite as much. Nope. All of a sudden, the old Pierre Poilievre just reemerged, and he was smarmy and snarling and having a totally pointless and useless fight. And so, yes, this is going to keep coming up. I've done tons of French media on this. We were pretty well live covering it yesterday, and people's jaws dropped. It was just like, he didn't just do that. And I'm going, yeah, but that's the guy. I sat with that guy in the house for, well over 10 years. And yes, that's the guy. And so they can hide it as much as they want. Wow. They can change some of the external aspects, but that's Pierre Poilievre.
Now, is that going to be, this is a Quebec-centric story. Is it going to play in the rest of Canada? Are they going to catch on that this is
Well, I've been doing a lot of media in the rest of Canada, and it's been coming up every time.
Okay.
I've done TV. I'll be doing a bunch of radio and TV the rest of the day, too, mostly out of Toronto. So, yeah, I make sure to explain it to people because they always start with the point of, look at the polling numbers. The Conservatives are doing well, and you have to concede the point. Yes, they are. And even in Quebec, some of the polling, for what it's worth, because it's not the most reliable group, but one of the polls today says that he's neck and neck with Trudeau in the province of Quebec. Mm-hmm. I don't quite believe that, but be that as it may. But then you have to explain that, it's a long way from the next election because Trudeau, even though he was very tempted to go, he's just been looking at the numbers like everybody else, and he's just going to wait it out. I remember when he had that boxing match against that senator, he let the guy punch himself out and get tired.
Yeah, Patrick Brazeau,
he's going to wait for Poilievre to punch himself out because it's a long time. If he waits till the end of his deal with Singh, it's another year and a half, so almost 2. So, it gives him lots of time to let Canadians become more familiar with Poilievre. I'm still not convinced that Trudeau's going to stick around for the run because he'd have to finish these 2 years and then ask Canadians for another 2, and I don't think that that's part of the plan. So we'll see whether he sticks around.
So I have 2 questions. Number one, to that point, you wonder if on a day like today where Pierre Poilievre just reverted to the old Pierre Poilievre, whether this is an opportunity, of course, for Justin Trudeau to finally say, hey, here's one thing we thought we wouldn't see this side of Pierre Poilievre again, but it's clear that the real Pierre Poilievre is this guy. Plus, Tom, after a day like today, do you sit back if you're on his team and take a look at what you've done, do a post-mortem and say, you know what, this was bad, we shouldn't do this again, and we need to avoid doing this?
It wouldn't have taken very long for all of his senior communication folks to, once they'd finished banging their heads on the wall, saying, "Oh no, I can't believe he's back," then to sit down and say, "Okay, what do we do to avoid this?" Because it's not as if I'm trying to give excuses for that outburst to Poilievre, but it is a human game. You've traveled, you've made it to Quebec City, you've been up since 4 a.m. You've got all your personal life, and there are going to be times when, everybody makes slips like that. So what the problem is for them is they know that that's the fundamental core guy. They know that that's not slipping on a bar of soap. That's the guy. And that's the one that they've been trying to hide from Canadian voters. And I'm not sure that that's going to work long term.
So meanwhile, in the Trudeau camp, they're like, aha, there he is. He's back. The real guy. He never went anywhere. I heard Vashti's panel today debating whether he will run again, whether he still has that fire in his belly, or whether he will take a walk in the snow. You've said before you think that he has that fire in his belly. Does that stay the same right now, Tom?
He definitely sees, to use one of his expressions from that boxing match, he once described the senator that he boxed with as the perfect foil, meaning, this was somebody that could fight physically, but it was also ideological. He was a conservative appointee to the Senate and
Patrick
so forth.
Brazeau.
Exactly, Patrick Brazeau. So maybe Trudeau sees the same thing in Poilievre, but he also knows how to count. And he also knows that there's a best before date on him becoming a board member of 5 of the 10 biggest corporations in the world. I mean, this guy would be able to command almost anything he wanted. Internationally, he's an absolute rock star. He walks into summits now. He's one of the most senior heads of. He's a head of government, not a head of state, but he's one of the most senior people in the room, and he does very well on that stage. So you can just imagine there are large corporations around the world that would do anything to have Justin Trudeau on their board. And this guy's not going to be wanting for cash once he leaves politics. So you're really depreciating the coin if you stick around for too long and you wind up getting beaten. He knows that calculus. So the snow, maybe January, February, that's when the famous walk in the snow of his dad. I think that maybe that's the type of thing he's looking at, because then he gets to say he was there from 2015, even though it was at the end of the year, all the way into 2024. That might be part of his thinking. It's a long stretch, and he gets to put that up on the chalkboard.
So let me go to this other story. A bit of a slap in the face today for Canada from the UN of all places. You have a United Nations envoy linking our temporary foreign workers program to what he called contemporary form of slavery. Wow.
Very harsh words. I don't think it's fair, but I do think it's a wake-up call for people who think that we can continue with this system and not give people a proper track to becoming full citizens. I was in an agricultural producing section of the province yesterday, and you could see people who were clearly, all probably from the same geographical area, working really hard. It was one of the hottest days of the year, and you realize that they're not being very well paid. Their conditions are not great. Some of the big unions, like the food and commercial workers union, some of them try working very hard to unionize them to get them some rights. There's some community groups in there helping them, but the United Nations is not completely wrong in calling this thing out. Comparing it to slavery is a stretch, but it's a way of getting people's attention.
Okay. I wonder if we're going to hear reaction from somebody on this one. We haven't heard anything today. Have we already on this?
I haven't got very much in terms of reaction. Trudeau's out of the country, and it's a program that's worked with the provinces a great deal too. They set a lot of the numbers. And by the way, it's a reminder also, because this came out recently when some of the banks were saying, could we start telling Canadians the real number about the people who are in Canada who are aspiring to citizenship? That includes the 900,000 students. That includes the hundreds of thousands of temporary foreign workers. It includes a lot of other categories of people who are waiting. Because even when Legault says, the real number should be 30, or it should be 40, or it should be 50, or it should be 60, and the other ones are bargaining for more, the actual number for Quebec is almost double any number that Legault puts up, and he knows it. But he still wants to win the not too many fight with the other political parties.
Tom Mulcair back with us again. It'll be now on next
Tuesday.
week. Yeah, Tuesday. Next Tuesday afternoon. Tom, thank you so much. Good to have you
care.
back.
Have a good weekend.
You too, Tom. Right. Thanks.